Dan here in one of the many beautiful cemeteries in Prague. This is one of those things, if you've been to Prague, you've probably only been for a couple days, and it's one of those cities where you can literally spend weeks here and still have more things to say. Thought this would be a good setting for the topic of today's video as well, which is not so much finding your calling, finding that thing that you are meant to be doing, or I often say it's more like uncovering, because I think really we usually know somewhere, at least that's what I found working with many clients on this. But the aspect of getting the motivation and getting the urgency to actually go after your calling, that thing you're meant to do. One of the things that was a real blessing for me is being broke as hell. So when I started off and made different changes, I had a business fail and then went to do something else. And this happened a couple times. And when I was making the changes, I always refused to take a job. And I've never been great with saving money, great at making money, great at enjoying money. Saving never quite appealed to my instincts. And so usually when I would start a new business, I would need to be making money quickly. In my book, I tell the story about when I had a business fail, and then I worked as a bartender for a couple days. Not a bartender, sorry, an assistant to the assistant of the bartender, basically cleaning toilets and stuff. That I was pretty desperate to have some income coming in. So within a couple days of that, I was started as a freelance writer. I posted some things and got going and got clients going right away. And that was actually quite beneficial, right? Having that urgency. And one thing I've found even with myself, and especially with clients, is as people get into their 30s or 40s, they have money in the bank, they have savings, investments, things like this. The urgency and the ability to just take on something new and, go for it, if you will, go for that calling is reduced. It makes sense, right? If, when you go for your dream, if we want to call it that, there's a lot of fear to that because you're going for your dream, and what if it doesn't work? And that would suck, right? It's easier to do things you don't want to do than to go for the thing you really want to do. And if you want a bit of a life hack for figuring out what is your calling, the thing that you're really avoiding doing, that you're most afraid to do, that you come up with all the reasons you can never do, many times that's it. So when you don't have money in the bank, you're like, well, dying of hunger is a lot worse than failing at my dream. Barely, but okay, it is worse. So you go for it. But when you have a bunch of money in the bank and life is good, and maybe you are still at that job or you've quit that job and you have some savings in the bank, there's not a urgency, because on a daily basis, it's less scary to do nothing than it is to pursue that dream, right? It's easier to plan, to think about, to brainstorm, to head over to YouTube to get inspired than it is to actually do the thing, which then brings in the possibility of rejection and of failure. So it's not that you're saying, I'm not going to pursue this calling. I'm not going to go for my dreams. You're not saying that, but you're saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And because there's money in the bank, there's not an urgency to do it. So how do you go for that thing, pursue your calling, when you have the golden handcuffs or you've got money in the bank? Well, the best thing I can come up with so far is to think about legacy and to, think about death. To reflect on the limited time you do have on this earth and what that impact you want to have is. And also to project forward in your mind and think about being in that future place 10, 20, 30 years from now, and not having that much time left, when you perhaps don't have the health or the energy to the same way you would now. Although if you've seen my video on aging, you know that I plan to be crushing it full of energy well into my 90s and beyond. But let's say hypothetically, right? So put yourself in this place where you go into the future and you think about a time when you aren't going to have the ability to pursue your dream, or you've just started pursuing it, but you only have a couple years left in life, and you've realized, wow, this is what I've meant to do. And you think back to all the time you wasted with bullshit, with avoidance, with procrastination, doing something you hated, doing something for someone else. And you think back to those days, because you're never getting those back. Those are gone. So maybe you're in your late 20s now, maybe late 30s. I know 40 is a big one, where we're about to, hit 40, and it's like, okay, that's a turning point. Maybe it's beyond that. But thinking that time is going to run out. There's going to be a time when all you have is reflection. And so putting yourself, visualizing being in that place and looking back and saying, when I'm 60, when I'm 70, if I close my eyes and I think to this moment now, today, what am I going to wish that I would have done? What am I going to have wanted to do now in this moment, so that when I am 60, 70, 80, and I look back, it's with a big ass smile. It's with a grin. It's like, yes, I did that. I had that experience. I made that impact. I did that thing. What do you do today so that when you look back, that is what you experience, rather than looking back with regret, like, why did I waste those years? Why did I waste all that time? What the heck was I even doing? For me, this is a very powerful exercise. I don't think there's anything I'm more afraid of than looking back with regret. And so whatever else I'm afraid of, rejection, failure, looking stupid in a video, making something that no one's interested in, I'm a lot more scared of looking back and realizing I wasted days, weeks, months, or even years of my life that were the golden time, the time where I could achieve the most, do the most, impact the most people, have the most fun, make the most memories and stories and all that. That's one of the things that really, really helps me, and I wanted to share that little tool with you today. By the time you're seeing this, I will likely have a new coaching package available, which is really focused on uncovering your calling and then making a plan to make it happen, which, yes, will be somewhat of a tactical plan, but also, of course, incorporate the psychological side, dealing with things like fear, building your confidence, all that to actually make it happen. So the best way, if that's something you're interested in, if you just go to dreamsaroundtheworld.com and you can click on the coaching link in the menu and then fill out the private coaching form there and just indicate there somewhere that what you're most interested in is moving forward on your calling and making that happen. And we can talk about that if it's a good fit. And that's it. If you're new to the channel, I publish new videos for ENFPs whenever I have something worthwhile to say. I'm done having a fixed schedule, at least at this point. But there's hundreds of back videos for ENFPs. So if you're new here, subscribe and check out all the past videos. You're not going to get bored anytime soon. And I will catch you in the next one soon.